Hey folks, got some things to talk about today. We got some new products from RIO. We've got a new version of the Scandi body called the Elite Scandi body. And to go with them, we've got new tips. We have the 12 and 18 foot MDC sink tips, multi-density control. So the 12 footers are dual density and the 18 footers are triple density. I've had these for a few weeks and I'm getting to know them. I've been fishing them. I've had my clients fish them. We've actually caught fish on them. Super fun. So let's talk about how we're going to fish them, how we're going to match these lines, these tips to our rods, and just overall my impressions for having these. I don't know, maybe I've had them a month. And this is going to evolve over time, and we're going to find all these sweet combinations. I've found some sweet combinations already, but I can't wait to see where this thing goes. I got to tell you, they're super fun. So what I have here is an 8136 R8, 13.5 foot 8 weight. And if you look at the Elite Scandi body, it'll have a line designation, 8, 8, 9, 9, so on. So I like to think about this really in three ways to fish them. The application, how we use them, what they're used for is the same, right? We have these great sink tip combinations that are going to cover us in a variety of steelhead, Atlantic salmon situations. But let's talk about matching the line and the sink tips to the rods, because that's where there could be some confusion when you look at the chart, when you go to the shop, when you talk to the guy at the shop. It's all new to everybody. We're figuring it out as we go. The guys at RIO design these awesome lines and these awesome tips. And keep in mind that the Scandi body is really designed for the European market when we match up an 8 for an 8, a 9 for a 9. So this 8 weight head is 400 grains. Now that sounds kind of light, right? For an 8 weight. But the Europeans tend to like, and sure, are there people on the West Coast and America that like it light? Absolutely, right? But it's highly preferred for the European market. Light, crisp, tip action, high line speed. So let's talk about three ways to match these to your rod. What I call Euro style. Okay, if you got an 8 weight, get an 8 weight Scandi body and get the appropriate tip. In this case, I have a 7/8 MDC tip in an 18 foot version, and you're going to get nice high line speed, tight loop, and they work great. They're going to work great on whether you're doing touch and go or sustained anchors, but they're really going to shine on those touch and go casts, because when touch and go casts, we get a lot of dynamic D-loop load. So Euro style, got an 8, get an 8, get the appropriate tip, done deal. Okay, now let's move on to a third, and we could call these buckets. I've got three ways. Euro style is one of the buckets that this would go into. And as you saw, it casts good. It casts really good. But over here in America, we tend to like things a little heavier. Hey, we invented the Skagit line, right? I fished a 600 grain Skagit line on this rod, right? I got a 400 grain head on it right now. That's a 200 grain discrepancy. Let me grab this other rod. We'll talk about America's choice. So here I have a 7136 R8. Okay, I've got a 13.5 foot 7 weight. and I've got a 435 grain Elite Scandi body on it with an 18-foot tip, okay? 435. So we're still not hitting that if I fished a full Scandi. You know, I fish a 470 on this rod. Fish a 470. So we're short 35 grains. Because when I put an 18-foot tip on here, it lengthens the whole system out a bit. But when I put an 18-foot tip on, only about 2/3 of that tip are part of my anchor. So that leaves a third of that tip that's going to be part of my D-loop, which is 6 feet, okay? It's a 130 grain tip. A third of that is 43 1/3 grains. So I add that 43 1/3 to 435, which is the head. Now I'm pushing 480 grains for what's going to be considered D-loop load, okay? So now I'm kind of in that, you know, full Scandi grain weight load category, right? So that's how I'm matching these up. Now, on my 7130 R8, which is a little bendier of a rod, I'm fishing the 400 plus the 18-foot tip, and that's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So figure you're going to get a little load out of the back 6 feet of these 18-foot tips, which factors into the whole D-loop load equation. So whatever you use for a Scandi, subtract a third of whatever this sink tip is. In this case, a 7/8. A third of that's 43 1/3 grain. So if I subtract 43 from 470, that's 427. So I'm either going to put a 400 or a 435 on it and see which one I like. That's a great place to start for America's Choice. Well, let's just go see how it casts. That's all the math we're going to do at the moment. I didn't get past algebra 2, so we'll just keep it simple today. So I've got, like I said, the 7136 R8 with the 435 Elite Scandi body. Now this, since I lined this up, has been a client favorite. Look at that thing fly. Oh my word. I should quit on that one, folks. So 435, 18-foot MDC tip in a 7/8 version. Total grain weight of that tip's 130 grains. A third of that, 43 grains. We'll consider that part of the D-loop load. And it gets us in that pushing 480 for total D-loop grain weight. And then I've got the other 12-foot of that tip is going to be my anchor, okay? Pretty simple. So we've got Euro style. Got an 8, get an 8. Got a 7, get a 7. Put on the appropriate tip. We've got America's Choice. Let's factor in a little bit of sink tip as our overall system here of D-loop load. And let's go to our third choice. I've got a 12.5-foot 5-weight R8 with a 400 grain Scandi body, okay? I was fishing a 400 grain Scandi body on that 8-weight. But in this case, I've got a 12-foot MDC tip. And when I fish it this way, I like to think, because this head is 23, 24 feet, this head is 400 grains. And that's right in that Skagit weight. But the Scandi body has a little more taper, a little more finesse. So I like to call this the Skagit finesse way to fish them. So I've just got, like I said, 400 grains. I've got the 12-foot MDC tip. Now, I've fished this system a lot over the years with the original Scandi bodies. So let's see what this looks like. Now I can put a floating versaleader on this, fish a skated fly. I can put 10 feet of T8 on it. I could put a 15-foot replacement tip on it. Whoa, a little wily. I could put a variety of sink tips on this. In this case, I have the 12-foot MDC tip in a floating, this is the hover intermediate tip. And as you can see, it casts pretty dang nice. So this is what I like to call the Skagit finesse way to fish these, okay? And you can do that with other rods. Take whatever you would fish as a Skagit weight, and either match it or go down one bump, and chances are it's gonna cast really nice. Another combo I like in the Skagit finesse category is the 13-foot 6-weight R8 with the 435 Scandi body, and then either a 12-foot MDC tip or a 15-foot replacement tip, which is now called the classic sink tip. So we've got our 3 ways to do it. We've got Euro style. If you got an 8, get an 8-weight Scandi body, appropriate tip. We've got America's Choice. Factor in that third of that tip is going to factor into your D-loop load. So factor that in when you choose. And then we have the Skagit finesse style, which is more Skagit load with a little finesse and a lot of versatility. So I hope this helps. Can't wait to fish these more. We're going to find all kinds of cool combinations as we move forward. But these systems, this system with this new Elite Scandi body and these MDC tips, they're going to be incredible on our West Coast steelhead venues, whether it's summer steelhead or we're up in BC fishing. And of course, the Atlantic salmon fishermen, this is made for these guys. It's just boom, let's go fishing. So appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, hit me up. Please like and subscribe, and we'll chat again soon.